choice to have gone back to John Mahama. We are going to have that conversation here today with someone who was one of the first persons to be appointed when the president was elected. He named some people to help run his office. This person once occupied the office of Deputy Information Minister, spokesperson and aide to the former president when he was in political asylum. And now that he's back, he appointed Felix Kwakye Ofosu as his spokesperson. And when he decided to name ministers, he made him the chief government spokesperson. So he's my guest today on Face to Face. We're going to assess the 1 year of the John Mahama administration and do a forecast of the next 3 years. I am Umaru, Sanda, Amadu. You're welcome to Face to Face.
Uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, Mommy.
Amadu.
The second coming.
Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswa dear. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be late?
Of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. Yeah, you go be the luckiest. Coffee from Georgia be luckiest. From Latepia, cause she be luckiest. Yeah, you go be luckiest. No matter what you're luckiest. Everybody go be the luckiest.
That's Kwame!
Send your God the apple boom. If you put it at so would the coming of the son of man be.
Hey.
Is that his car?
Ha! Even now, your shadow the way designer.
I use my own mouth to reject him. Oh, this is my mouth. Look at that.
Kwame, my son. Now, tell me the truth. How did this all happen?
Oh, mommy, a simple direction. Mr. Good Luck no chemi way.
Eh?
Yeah, mom.
Easy car. Or dial star 712 hash.
The devil is a liar.
He picked his ticket and entered his lucky 5-digit number.
I'm his birthday.
Oh, how romantic.
And he followed the prompts. Yes. And then boom. Confirmation test.
One quick, pick 5 numbers for me, okay? I'm feeling like 7.
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompt and let destiny handle the
You see how they love you now?
Yo, baby, our family can before December, may release a motivational album. Patapa, my super.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
You're welcome back. This is Face to Face on Channel 1 Television. My guest is Member of Parliament for Abra Sebe, Minister of State in charge of Government Communication, Honorable Felix Kwakye Ofosu. So you're welcome to Face to Face.
Thank you, Umaru.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm holding up by God's grace.
Around this period last year, what was going through your mind, knowing that you have won a bigly margin, by a very bigly margin to quote Donald Trump?
Well, I had become the newly minted MP for the Abra Sebe constituency. I had barely got any sleep because we were at the collation center from around midnight to around 9 a.m. So the results had been declared. Indeed, only this morning I was reminded of a Facebook post I made announcing the outcome of the AAK results. The victory was the outcome of intense campaigning.
So your place was declared before Baumia's concession? Or
yes,
after?
yes, I think so.
Okay.
By 7 p.m., we had determined through our own collation that we had won.
And then you have to then move
then
to
we
Accra.
had to move to the collation center at the AAK District Assembly. And then when the declaration was made, I had to make my way to Accra for the President Mohammed's official acknowledgement of the results. No sooner had that been done, did the call come in for me to be on the transition team to serve as spokesperson for the John Mahama side of the transition team. So there was little rest for me at the time. And
but you were already his spokesperson and aide before the election, right?
Well, that is true. That is true.
And so while you were in the constituency, you were also looking at the national picture.
Absolutely. I recall calling Dr. Mane around 11 p.m. on December 7th to ask him where we were in terms of the coalition. Then he told me we had garnered around 56% at the time. I recall expressly. So I knew I went into the coalition room at the AAK Assembly fully aware that we were on our way to victory.
Oh, so your eyes were not just on your election?
It was, I mean, it was all well and good to win the parliamentary seats of AAK, but more important, it was an urge to ensure that we had achieved victory at national level so that we could salvage the country from the complete doldrums that it was in at the time. So when he broke that news to me, I went in there confident that perhaps the assignment had been completed. We had won on both fronts.
It's 1 year. That night when I stood in the studio here to make the announcement of the results that were coming, I was in shock. I mean, things weren't looking good. It wasn't surprising that the opposition party would win the election, but the magnitude of defeat was too huge. Constituencies that had never been green went green. And these were Sekendi, Takrady municipal area. You know that they've never gone green. All of them. And when I announced Mesa had lost, Bernard thought I was crazy. Have you come to terms with the size of victory that you garnered? And what do you attribute that size to?
Well, we came to terms with it pretty quickly. First of all, it was not our first victory in elections. Yes, there was something to be said for the magnitude of victory. Let me indicate that our internal posters had been telling us that was the outcome to expect. Okay. There were times when we doubted it a bit. We were in no doubt whatsoever that we were going to win the presidential elections. It was the margin that surprised us a bit, even though periodically we got information that things were going to tilt that way. But we had to wait for the day itself to be certain that had been achieved. But whereas it was an overwhelming victory, it was also a humbling one for us, because then it told us that the Ghanaian people had come to the point where they were not going to countenance any form of bad governance and that they were willing to punish it severely. And that is what they had done to the MPP. The signs were clear. The Ghanaians were unhappy about the way that they had governed, that their total destruction of the Ghanaian economy, which had plunged millions of people into hardships, was something that they could not be forgiven for. The general levels of bad governance, the corruption, blatant theft of public resources, arrogance of power, and all the ills of government clearly had a telling effect on the way that people voted. And so for us, even as we reveled in the victory and celebrated, it was a cautionary tale for us to do better. And that is what we have sought to do since we came to power.
You had a lot of goodwill when you started, but one of the first things that people started taking you on was the decision to sack people who were appointed. The question was, okay, they were appointed, midnight appointment, but they were still Ghanaians. So why would you sack people who have been given jobs by the government? And I think that's one of the bigger issues that you have had to face.
I think that it was not the fact that they were appointed at midnight that was the problem. The problem was that due process was bypassed. In fact, I recall putting out a statement on 18 January on behalf of the Mahama side of the transition team.
18 December.
18 December, I beg your pardon, yes. Indicating our concern about the way that this last minute recruitment had been done. First of all, be reminded that it was the MPP that in 2016 first kicked against the notion that the government had been voted out of power, even though officially had not handed over, could, as it were, make some recruitments into the public and civil service. They took issue with that. We went back and forth. So we did not expect that having lost power, they would do the very thing that they complained about. But what was more surprising was that due process had not been followed. We got information that there were some that had not gone through the processes. First of all, the positions had to be advertised. People had to apply. And then a process is put in place to screen and select the best. So interview processes had to be undertaken. Some had to write aptitude tests. Others too had to go through medicals.
So they bypass
all of this. There were some who never applied for the job and yet received appointment letters. So it was important that we looked into that. So we, in that December 18th statement, we cautioned that if these matters that we had actually brought to the attention of the MPP side of the transition team did not stop, we will be compelled to review what they had done. And that's precisely what we did. So it was not that...
Could you have said that, well, the appointment may not have gone through the procedure, but they have been appointed.
No, but
so
let's
take efforts
Umaru,
to
due
rectify
process
that.
is important. The second point too is that that kind of activity saddles the public purse with some additional responsibility. So it is only fair that the government that is coming in has a handle on exactly what is being done. Okay. Because, mind you, the budgetary allocations that had been made by the previous government covered only up to the first quarter of the year. Subsequent quarters we're going to be taken care of by the budget that we, as an incoming government, put forward. Okay. And once this had not been done, it placed us in a very serious situation. But the point is that due process was important, so that you make sure that those who get into those positions are qualified. So the process was reviewed, and a committee was put in place, headed by the chief of staff, or by the chief of staff, to look into these appointments and see those that merits recall and those whose appointments were clearly fraudulent and did not go through any due process. So once that process is completed, I think that the right things will be done. Those who deserve to be reinstated will be reinstated. Yeah.
Just a point on the victory before we proceed and look into the things you've done so far. I interviewed Nana Komia, who played a key role in the Bawumia government campaign and still playing a role in his campaign. I interviewed him last night on Eyewitness News, and he said that Dr. Bawumia's concession was a major democratic feat that has to be celebrated globally. And that when John Mahama lost in 2016, he did not concede magnanimously like Dr. Bawumia did, and that should be celebrated. I don't know if you can make a comment on that.
Komia clearly spinning. That is propaganda. First of all, Dr. Bawumia is not the first person in the history of the Fourth Republic to have conceded ahead of the EC. Professor Mills did that in the year 2000. In 2024, the NDC considered defeat again. Professor Mills once again considered defeat. In 2008, President Akufo-Addo didn't do that. He put us he put us into a very tense situation, where at one point by midday, the central business district of Accra had been completely abandoned. People had fled because of the tensions that had arisen because of President Akufo-Addo's refusal to concede defeat when it was clear. In 2012, President Akufo-Addo took us to court. He did not concede defeat. He took us to court. We spent 8 months in court. It was after the court verdict that he conceded defeat. In 2016, President Mahama conceded defeat well in advance of the Electoral Commissioner's announcement of the results. So anybody who tells you that President Amadu did not consider it, it's partly false.
He said Otumfuo had to
call
him
and
impress upon him.
It is not true. President Mahama is a consummate Democrat. He didn't need anybody's prodding to concede defeat. What it says is that you need to have the results collated and get to a point where you see you have no chance, I beg your pardon, of bridging the gap before you do the concession. And once it got to that point where we realized that there was no way we could close the gap, President Mahama considered defeat. Indeed, I was standing beside him when he did that concession. Okay. So the claim that Dr. Bawumia has done something novel is not true. The other point is that the magnitude of defeat was such that nothing could be done about it. And it was in his own interest that he did that, to spare himself further agony. I told you that by 11 p.m. of December 7th, we in the NDC knew the exact amount of votes we had gotten. And I'm sure they also had the calculations, so they saw it. So he was left with no choice than to do the right thing. Okay. So, and it is not novel. I've accounted a history of all of this. So, Nana Komia and Co. should mitigate this tendency to hype what happened beyond reasonable doubt. Of course, it helps. It helps to calm down tensions. It helps to diffuse any worrying situations that may arise because of the longevity or the time it takes for the concession to be had. But to single it out as something unprecedented is simply not true. Okay.
Yeah. So you said that you had to come and rescue Ghanaians from you used all manner of adjectives against the previous administration. How have you fared in the 1 year based on your own assessment, for instance, on governance? So you said that they were not accountable, there were so many things, and Ghanaians gave you the money. 1 year on, what remarkable change have we seen? Or should we point to and say, oh, Mahama came and we've been saved?
Absolutely. Look at the economy, for instance. Indeed, Umaru, no matter what anybody says, the economy was the number one issue for the people of Ghana, and all the polls that preceded the 2024 elections showed it. And we made a clear commitment. It's in our manifesto. In fact, the very first pages of our manifesto captures that point. And we made clear commitments to reverse the economic decline that the MPP had supervised. And indeed, the figures show that that has happened. There has been a 360-10 in the fortunes of the Ghanaian economy. Every available indicator shows progress. Growth is good. Inflation is at 6.3% from a position of 23% in January this year. We hope, indeed, the finance minister is confident that it will even go lower than the current figure that we have. Look at our debt position. One of our biggest problems was the sheer size of our debt. Our debt has reduced by between 60 to 70 billion Ghana cedis. Our debt to GDP ratio has moved from around 61.8% to 45%. Indeed, we had programmed to achieve that by 2045. By 2034. That has been done 9 clear years ahead of time. At a point under the MPP, around 2003 or so, 2023, the debt to GDP ratio was in excess of 100%. It was 104%. If you compare that to what we have now, you see that there's been a clear improvement. Look at the exchange rate, for instance. Last year, 2024, the Ghana cedi depreciated by 27%. This year, it has appreciated by between 34 to 37%. The cost of living, which was the biggest problem that Ghanaians confronted, has also gone down. I mean, fuel prices have come down, transport fares have come down, and I've said this, I'll repeat it. There is data that shows that the prices of up to 4,500 different items have reduced. And everybody who lives in Ghana sees this sort of benefit. I mean, if the cedi was exchanging for the dollar at 17 in 2024 or at the beginning of this year, and today, even in forex bureaus, you get between 11.5 or 12 Ghana cedis, and our interbank market is around 11.4 Ghana cedis. It is a remarkable improvement, and that in itself allows for the cost of living to be driven up, because then at least the items that we import or those things that are manufactured with foreign input do not escalate beyond reasonable limits, as we saw under the MPP. So on the economic front, I think we have achieved the objective of turning around.
The indicators sound very nice, but the question is, what did you deliberately do over the past 1 year to have resulted in this? I've heard members of the MPP say the foundation they laid is what you are benefiting from.
I don't know which
about gold for oil, for instance, and all.
Umaru, I don't know which foundation that was laid would account for what we are doing. First of all, what did the MPP? What foundation did they lay? So you need to look at where we were when we were in power. After all the cries about, or the hoopla, the hue and cry about gold for oil, the price at the pump was higher than what we have today.
Yeah, but they were starting. They were not
starting. What? They had been in power for 8 years.
They introduced
it
at last
Umaru,
minute.
They had been in power for 8 years.
Yes.
At least we had heard about gold for oil for about 2 years before they left power. But what was the outcome? The outcome was that when we went to the pump, at a point, diesel was selling at 23 cedis at the pump, and petrol was around 19 cedis or so. That is the results that the MPP achieved. By the time we came to power, it was between 14 to 15 cedis a gallon at the pump. And later, I beg your pardon, at the pump. Now, that is not the situation. The cedi, there is talk about some gold accumulation that Baumia is supposed to have initiated. There's the very same person who says he knew nothing about MPP economic management, says that he was responsible for the gold accumulation policy. Again, the contradiction there perhaps contributed to the huge defeat.
But so the question,
but I was coming to the point.
What did NDC
so I'm coming.
do?
The point is that, first of all, the key factor that underlines economic development or economic performance is fiscal discipline. Our history shows that fiscal indiscipline has led to cyclical economic crisis. By 2021, it had become clear that there was a huge hole in our finances. The MPP had achieved a budget deficit of in excess of 15% at the end of 2020, which had created a huge hole, which then led to the accumulation of more debts, which led to debt unsustainability, which led to debt defaults, which then impacted our currency and led to hardships. So to make progress, you need to reverse these things. So the first thing you look at is discipline, staying within your means. How do you do that? So you have revenue, which you match against expenditure. You are allowed a certain percentage by which you overspend. And when you set that target, you must keep within it. The MPP programmed that we were going to do what we call a primary balance. In other words, if you look at our revenue and expenditure, and you took out the fact that we had to service our debts, they said we were going to achieve a surplus of 0.5%. When they left office, it went around 3.5% or so. They did not meet that target. We set a target of 1.5% surplus. When the finance minister read his budget a month or so ago, it emerged that we had actually achieved 1.6%. We had done better than we projected. Same can be said for the budget deficit, which is a straightforward calculation of
they say that you are not,
the difference between your revenue
you are not spending,
and your expenditure.
You are not spending at all.
It is not true, Umaru. It is not
true.
true.
Why we are seeing the point. And
Umaru,
that the day you start spending,
it is not true.
We're going to go down.
We are spending, but we are being fiscally prudent. When you read the budget again, the finance minister indicated that he had some shortfall in revenue, but he had corresponding cuts in expenditure. So he kept within the limits that he has set for himself. Under the MPP, when there was a drop in revenue, they ballooned expenditure. So the whole increase. Now, to curb that, you need to pinch yourself and stay within budgetary limits and spend in the areas that matter. Okay. It is not true that we are not. So let me show you that why I say we are spending. So what are the key points of expenditure in Ghana? What are the key items that government spends money on?
Construction, salaries.
I beg your pardon. The big one is salaries. In fact, if you look into the budget of 2026, as presented by the budget finance minister, 90.5 billion Ghana cedis will be spent on public sector salaries. If you look at the budget that he read in 2025 and its implementation, look at the allocations made to education, allocations made to the District Assembly's Common Fund, allocations made to the NHIS. You speak to NHIS people, they will tell you that for the first time they have money sitting in their accounts, but it is rather the health service providers who are lagging behind in terms of the presentation of claims for payment to be made. In the past, we had a situation where they had capped the NHIS, and even the little that was due was not being released. So if you speak to Dr. Bampo, he will tell you that he has money in his accounts waiting for service providers to come and claim. If you go to the District Assembly's Common Fund, and I always say this because I have practical knowledge of it, I am an official member of the AAK District Assembly. So I know that last year, 2024, the total amount of money that came by way of Common Fund was 298,000 Ghana cedis. This year, by the second quarter, the same assembly had received from this government 6.5 million Ghana cedis. So because of that, they are able to do projects, at least 8 of them. Okay. Now we are well on course.
Where are you cutting the expenditure from? Is it political? Okay, so the political appointees, for instance, how have you cut the expenditure?
First of all, the part of the budget that you cut, if you have to, is what we call discretionary spending. There is some expenditure that you are forced to do.
Yes.
That's almost statutory. But there's what we call goods and services, which essentially is what government institutions and agencies run on. But it is discretionary. You can decide that this year ISD will be given this amount of money to run the office and manage the place. But you will cut out some items because it is not absolutely vital. What is absolutely vital is the wages.
But you frustrate them if the goods and services are not coming.
No, that is not the case. That is not the case. Indeed, there have been increases in the goods and services allocation and disbursement of ISD as I speak to you. But the point I'm making,
what I mean is that,
if you let me land,
okay, specifically, what did you say?
So if you let me land, so if you check the goods and services budget as presented by the finance minister, he has spent less than he said he would. In the past, we spent more than we budgeted for. And then there is capital expenditure, which essentially drives procurement. So that there too, we restricted it to essential items, things that matter, education, health. So you go to education, for instance. The biggest expenditure item there is free SHS. Before this government came to power, on a daily basis on your news and current affairs program, you had people lamenting, headmasters complaining, parents complaining, students complaining about non-release of funds for feeding, for instance. Every now and then we hear about schools closing down because monies have not been released for feeding. since we came to power, have you heard these noises? No, because between the beginning of this year and now, close to 1.5 billion Ghana cedis has been released to feed school children. In addition to that, other expenditure related to FSHS have been met, and because of that, you are not hearing the noises. I've just given you the situation with NHI. When was the last time you heard of service providers complaining about releases under NHIS? When you go to the common fund, the assemblies are receiving this, but there are assemblies that have received up to 13 million Ghana cedis this year. When last year they received under 1 million Ghana cedis. And when you go around, you see projects coming up, because that essentially is what the common fund is supposed to do. So money is being spent. That's why it is being spent in the right places. But if you are talking about general procurement, where things that we can do without are forced on the government payroll, on the government expenditure, and balloons it to the point where we run deficits and we have huge arrears that we have to. Let me give you one final example. For instance, go to the energy sector. Before we came into power, the situation at ECG was dire. In 2024, they had programmed to spend just around 900 million Ghana cedis on procurement. By the time the year went to an end, they had spent over 7 billion Ghana cedis, or committed ECG to expenditure of over 7 billion Ghana cedis. Indeed, they had imported cables that they would not need for the next 15 years.
So you're preventing that? Okay.
Now, that has been brought under control.
Okay.
And so you see that when ECG gets money, they are able to honor the cash waterfall mechanism. And all players in the sector are getting something. So the secret has been fiscal discipline, staying within budgetary limits and ensuring that the monies that are being disbursed go to the areas where they are needed the most, in the social sector, education, health, and what have you.
This is face-to-face on Channel 1 television. Staying disciplined is what he has said, is the reason we are seeing what we're seeing. But explain how you're going to build a road, a brand new road from Accra to Kumasi, and how is that going to affect the budget and also expenditure generally when you already have a road that you have not completed. I'll ask that when we come back. Plus, we'll talk about governance itself, how they have fared. Please stay with us.
The Heritage Christian University presents the 10th Anniversary Public Dialogue themed Upholding Our Heritage Won For Us, Red, Gold, Green. The panelists are Kenneth Ashibe, CEO, Chamber of Mines. Her Ladyship, Justice Sophia Kufu, former Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Ambassador Isaac Osei, Ghana's former High Commissioner to UK and Ambassador to Ireland. The moderator is Bernard Koku Able. The venue is the Boatin Auditorium of the Heritage Christian University behind the Olympic Stadium, Amasama. The date is the 10th of December 2025 from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. The 10th Anniversary Public Dialogue of the Heritage Christian University will be live on Channel 1 TV.
Hey Ghana, so you people know Miss Brother once more. If you knew, it's your boy. Kill them all. But this time, I'm not only killing mosquitoes, I am killing the grades. See? This wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have the perfect mosquito-free atmosphere. Thank you, Out Insecticide. And yeah, Out Mosquito Coil. For a mosquito-free atmosphere, trust Out to... You are not serious.
Out Insecticide. So ya boa, faha.
Yeah, welcome back. This is Face to Face on Channel 1 television. I am Umaru, Sanda, and my guest is the Chief Government Spokesperson, Minister of State in charge of communication. You've explained how you're managing expenditure, for which reason we are seeing the successes we are seeing. Why are you creating an entirely new road in a forest area I mean, we already had a road. You could expand it. You could make it 7 lanes if you want. Why build a new parallel road? It doesn't make sense.
Well, I'll come to that. But I think that one of the major campaign promises that President Mahama put before the people of Ghana was a big push agenda. And since we've been in power, at least 43 billion Ghana cedis has been earmarked for that expenditure. 13.9 billion in 2025 and 30 billion in 2026. Indeed, as I speak to you, there are about 30 different routes that are at various stages of construction. Some of those roads are roads that we inherited, that the MPP, as usual, left no money for, did not leave any funding mechanism for. So that has been packaged and added to new roads that are being constructed, and there are about 30 of them. As I speak to you, the finance minister has close to $1 billion in an account dedicated to that. We have said that we will not pay mobilization, because there are instances where contractors have been paid mobilization by the MPP government and they have not done the work. However, if a contractor raises a certificate after having done some work and it is certified to reflect the actual work done, within a matter of 30 days, the certificate will be honored. And the finance minister has made that very, very clear. So those who claim that the big push is not being done because mobilization has not been paid are clearly in the wrong on that one. Now, this year, to another 30 billion has been allocated for big push roads to be constructed, because roads are one of the biggest problems that we have as a country. Now, the major arterial roads, that is the roads that exit out of Accra and connects various major cities in Accra, require significant attention. And indeed, recently, about a month or two ago, the president cut the sword for work to begin on the Cape Coast to Takoradi road. It was about a 70-kilometer stretch. The work that is being done between Kaswa and Winneba has also received additional impetus, and you can see that it is going on quite well, and it is expected to be completed within reasonable time. Now, the Accra-Kumasi road has been a long-standing bottleneck. For many, many years, it has become something of a death trap. Every now and then, there is some digging or some construction that is supposed to be going on, but never gets completed. President Mahama has indicated that those works will be continued. However, it has become necessary because of the constraints on that route and the dangers that it poses and the number of lives that are being lost on a daily basis. It has become necessary to open another corridor, which is shorter. It is less than 200 kilometers, 197 kilometers. But this will be a modern expressway that will have facilities that will aid rapid movements between Accra and Kumasi, with various other facilities along the stretch. And every country that has developed has done so by creating expansive infrastructure that facilitates the movements of goods and services and people, so that you can have rapid economic development. And that is precisely what has guided the decision to open this new corridor and construct this new expressway.
But why not finish the existing road?
First of all, Umaru, you cannot say that you will finish everything before you start something new.
No, I mean, so the Suhum one, the main road,
yeah, but you can see that work is going, indeed.
Yeah, so why don't you just focus on finishing that one? Why do you have to create an entirely new road?
The evidence shows that we are continuing the work on the Accra-Kumasi road. Indeed, the Ofanko to Isahom road.
Yes, they are doing the asphalt.
Absolutely, because we gave 800 million Ghana cedis to the contractor sometime this year. The MPP said they had sourced money from external sources to construct that road, and yet were unable to mobilize all the resources required to pay the contractor. When we came to power, one of the problems that emerged immediately was that the contractor had stopped work, and an unbearable level of traffic buildup was recorded on a daily basis. This was exacerbated when the rains began, and it was a terrible sight to behold anytime that vehicles plied the road. So it was absolutely imperative to do something quickly to free up the road. And indeed, $70 million, equivalent to over 800 million Ghana cedis, was paid to the contractor, and that is the reason why you see that they are asphalting significant portions and our traffic is
flowing. So if we are finishing that,
then there are bypasses which are also being done.
Yes.
But even when all those are done, it will not be enough to address the problem, the bottleneck on that road. And there's a need for this expressway that is being done. There are several
because you want to leave behind a legacy road so that everybody will say that this road was built.
Umaru, when you put
because
your
you give yourself 3 years to build that.
When you put your car on that road and you get to Kumasi in under 4 hours, let's say 3.5 hours, because my understanding is that it will chalk almost an hour of the journey to Kumasi. When you do that, it would have enhanced your experience on the road. it would have facilitated your movement, and whatever it is that you are going to do in Kumasi will also be enhanced.
But
the benefit will come to you directly.
But the cost of building that road and the fact that you give yourself a 3-year timeline,
just between,
knowing that we have roads that have been there for decades.
Just between Accra and Nsawum, or Fankwa to Nsawum, we have spent $70 million to allow the contractor to open up that stretch. $70 million. So even that is expensive. So road construction is an expensive business, but it is absolutely necessary for economic development to make that kind of investment. And that is the reason why President Mahama committed to the big push agenda. And so far, he has committed in excess of 40 billion Ghana cedis to that particular policy.
Let's talk about
13.9 for 2025 and 30 billion for 2026.
Let's talk about unemployment. We saw the recent deaths as a result of the recruitment by the armed forces. Now, a lot of the people who came, they were simply looking for jobs.
That is true.
And we keep seeing more of that in all the other services. How are you and how will you address the unemployment problem in this country as a government?
Of course. There's no doubt that second to the economic problems that the NPP created and saddled Ghanaians with, the next biggest problem was unemployment. And indeed, the last set of data that became available before the elections showed that up to 2 million Ghanaian youths were without employment. So we were always aware that unemployment was going to be a major issue that needed to be tackled under us. For that reason, measures are being put in place, some of which have begun already to address the problem. First of all, even the investments in road construction and other construction activities creates employment, because there are people whose job it is to engage in construction. There are masons, artisans of all types, steel benders, welders, what have you, who take part in the construction of these roads. And so through that, you create employment for tens of thousands of people who otherwise will be home without doing anything. We also have an apprenticeship program, which we have dubbed National Apprenticeship Program. The objective is to ensure that over the next 4 years, at least on a yearly basis, we have about 100,000 people put through apprenticeship. And indeed, being an MP in a rural community, and between 2020 and 2024, when I was campaigning on my own, through my own efforts, I was able to ensure the training of about 2,000 young people, because I distributed sewing machines, hair dryers, and what have you to them, and they learned a trade. And so every now and then I get invitations to attend graduation ceremonies of these people. And I noticed that it resolved the problem of unemployment to some significant extent, because those same people who used to come to me for assistance suddenly stopped because they had found something to do. So we committed ourselves to expanding this national apprenticeship program, and it's something that is ongoing. 300 million Ghana cedis was allocated for it last year. This year, another 150 million Ghana cedis has been set aside for 2026, and that is ongoing. There's a Jumeria project, which essentially aims at creating self-employed people, because it's not every time that you need to work for someone. There are times when you can work for yourself and also employ others. That one too has started with a target of about 10,000 people, with a view to growing it as we go on. You know, the Women's Development Bank to provide microcredits for women who want to engage in some trade or some other economic activity. Through that, you create employment for them. The finance minister announced 100,000 acre palm development projects, and the analysis that has been done shows that for every acre of palm plantation, you need 3 people to work on. So you are talking 3 times 100, that's 300,000 people if that project come to fruition in the medium to long term. So all these are policies that have been implemented to ensure.
More specifically, your party people who toiled under the sun and campaigned for you, a lot are disgruntled. They say you have not given them positions, you're not giving them appointments. Even your MPs in parliament, a lot have not been given positions. How are you dealing with that?
Including our party people, know that there's only so many people that will get into government. That is a truism. They are not in any doubt that not everybody within the NDC or without it who helped in some way, shape or form during the campaign will get an appointment in government.
But the NPP people are laughing at them. After all this,
was the NPP able to employ every member of their campaign teams, everybody who campaigned? So it is not possible. I don't think that there's any reasonable expectation for that to happen. However, members of the NDC are also Ghanaians, and so they deserve the same opportunities available to everybody. And so all these programs that I have highlighted are open to all of them. once the opportunities become available, I don't think that we would even be selecting people on the basis of their party cards. The idea is to ensure that as many of our young people as possible who are currently saddled with unemployment find opportunities through various interventions across various sectors, so that at the end of the day, they're able to earn some reasonable income that enables them to fend for themselves and their families. That, for me, is a more realistic and sustainable approach to the problem of unemployment.
You mentioned national health insurance, and that takes me to health sector. So I want us to know what you're going to do with Agenda 111, which is a project that was left behind for you. But there's a story on citynewsroom.com published in June.
Sure.
Government targets construction of 600 CHIPS compounds by end of 2025, and that's attributed to you. The year is ending. Where are the 600
Umaru,
CHIPS compounds? That's the question many people ask.
Yes, as part of the reforms that we have carried out in the disbursement of the Common Fund, President Obama has instructed that a minimum of 80% of the monies in the Common Fund should go to the districts. When we took over power, the NPP had a policy where they used to make huge deductions at the center, so very minimal amounts went to the district assemblies. And I told you about the experience of AAK. Only 298,000 cedis came the whole of last year. So we've sent about 80% of what the district assemblies Common Fund accrues to the district assemblies. Now, in order to guide the disbursement of these monies, the utilization of the monies, and to align them with the overarching objectives of government, Cabinet developed guidelines on how the monies should be spent. So we have something called the 24-hour economy markets, where in areas where they do not have decent market centers, and when you come to AAK, we hardly can boast of any decent market center. The district capital, Amadu, has a market that was built somewhere in the 60s, and clearly it's out of shape. It's in a state of disrepair. So a major commitment was to get them a new market. So this 24-hour economic market has come in handy, and the same will be applied to areas where there are no such markets. So that's, and up to 25% of the Common Fund was earmarked for this sort of activity. Indeed, as I speak to you in AAK, they've already, found a piece of land that is being cleared for the purpose, and very soon construction will start. So one of the items in the guidelines was the construction of at least 2 CHIPS compounds in every district, and we have 261 districts, so we are talking over 500, close to 600 CHIPS compounds. Now, the reason why this is necessary is that starting from next year, we are implementing the free primary health care, which was a major campaign promise. Essentially, it is to ensure that basic minor ailments, headaches, rashes, stomach aches that are not serious and all that, are treated at the most basic level of healthcare, which is the CHIPS compound, and then perhaps the health centers. To do this, you need to have the infrastructure in place. So this guideline was sent to all the assemblies. I know that they are complying with it. Indeed, in the case of AAK, I can report that all things being equal, by the end of this year, we should commission 2
CHIPS compounds.
CHIPS compound, one at Nyamedom, one at Ohia. But indeed, I've gone to inspect them. The last time I was there, they were almost done.
This year will end in 3 weeks.
Yes, and the contractor assures that by December 20th, it will be done. As I speak to you, procurement processes have begun to buy equipment to equip those 2 CHIPS compounds. And I know that the same applies to almost every district in Ghana. Indeed, the local government ministry should be updating us in the coming weeks on the outcome of this. So it is a promise.
You are the one who anchors the government accountability series. True. Would you invite the Minister of Health, or which ministry?
Well, the Minister of Health has been there about 8
or local government.
The local government minister.
Someone who can answer specifically on this 600 CHIPS compound.
It is the local government ministry.
Yes.
That is coordinated, because it's an activity being undertaken by the District Assembly. Of course, they do so in close collaboration with the Health Ministry to guide the operational procedures.
So when can you give us a specific...
by the close of the year, they should be able to report on it. Perhaps early next year, the first part of next year, they should be able to report on that. But I know that it's an activity that is ongoing.
But everywhere. The 600 have not been done.
Oh, but Umaru, if I tell you that 600, and again about 600, certainly in excess of 500. Yeah. I have given you the example of AAK.
You've given your place.
Absolutely.
So, and I
know that is same is taking place everywhere. So they are at various stages.
Okay.
So by a certain point, they should be completed.
Okay.
And I'm saying that it is not a random policy initiative.
Very well.
It is targeted at helping us.
I got the basis.
Implement the free primary healthcare policy. Yeah.
What are you doing at the National Cathedral? It's 1 year on. It's still a big hole.
Again, I still maintain to this day that it was an absolutely misplaced priority. You see, the president of the land at the time, at the height of economic difficulty, when Ghanaians were struggling, and his government, despite his assurance that there will be no haircut, had implemented excruciating haircuts in respect of about 1.3 million bondholders, told everybody that his biggest priority as president, indeed,
priority
of priorities, was the building of $1 billion cathedral.
Yes. So now my point is that 1 year on, what are you doing?
I think a few months ago, I held a press conference. At the time, the National Cathedral Secretariat itself had commissioned an audit, which had revealed very worrying patterns of procurement breaches and misapplication of public funds. That called for further investigation. So the Auditor General, working in collaboration with the Attorney General, have commissioned a forensic audit, which we know are underway, I beg your pardon. Once it is completed, we will know exactly what has been done where. But the president has
indicated too much.
Oh no, but you need a forensic audit means that you have to delve deeper.
It's 1 year.
No, it's not. It's only a few months. Indeed,
no, I mean since you took office.
Yes, but you need to allow a reasonable amount of time for that to happen, because the process has to be thorough. You have to find out everything. If somebody presents an invoice, you should be able to go behind the invoice and find out exactly what has happened, where the money has gone to, and who has done what. So once that is completed, then we'll be in a position to take other decisions. But what is clear is that we cannot commit $1 billion of public funds to build the cathedral, and the president has made that quite clear. And so once the report comes in, government position will be clearly stated. But what I can assure is that public funds are not going to be used to support $1 billion cathedral. The president has made that very, very clear.
This is Face to Face on Channel 1 TV. My guest is the Chief Government Spokesperson, Minister of State in charge of Government Communication. The next issue I want to bring to his attention is, even though the president himself has spoken about not wanting to go for a third term, people still keep talking about it. The Constitutional Review Commission has sent his report. I asked him emphatically what the president is thinking. And also the Office of Special Prosecutor and the Jean Mensah, chairperson of the Electoral Commission, petitions, are they trying to remove them like they removed the Chief Justice? That's the question I'm going to ask. Please stay.
This is AFCON, my friend. Everything is a competition. Everything.
Join our family for AFCON Morocco 2025 from 21 December to 18 January. Available on DSTV and GoTV.
You're welcome back. This Face to Face on Channel 1 TV. In assessing 1 year, removing the Chief Justice is a major thing in any republic. It goes down in history as your government supervising that. Even though you have explained that you went through the constitutional process, everything is correct. The woman herself is challenging it. She's gone to the ECOWAS court. Many people say you plan to do this and you have executed it. And now you're going to visit, say, on chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jean Mensah, and the Special Prosecutor, Kisei Jabin. How do you respond?
Well, those people would have to provide evidence to show. It's not enough to just claim that we have plotted against these persons and have either removed them or about to remove them. You have to provide evidence. As I speak, there's no evidence to the effect. You see, it does not matter how big or small one is. When the law catches up with you, the law must take its course. If you have a country where people are excused from wrongdoing on account of how weighty their position is, you are headed for a banana republic. So in a country where the rule of law works, it does not matter how lofty your position is, from the president to the messenger. Once you do something that violates Ghanaian law and there's a prescribed sanction, it ought to be applied. What matters is that due process has to be followed, and that is exactly what happened in the case of the Chief Justice. The President did not write the Constitution. So he abided by the letter and spirit of the Constitution. To date, those who say are making these claims are unable to point to a single infraction of the constitutional process. So there's really no basis for that assertion. In respect of the special prosecutor and the electoral commission chairperson, as I had cause to confirm to you last week, 10 separate petitions have been received. And the constitution is clear that on those matters, the president must simply act as a conveyor belt and send same to the Chief Justice for any further action that he may deem necessary based on constitutionally prescribed actions. And that is what has been done. That is where the president's role in this ends. The rest is up to the Chief Justice to kick the necessary process into motion.
We saw a by-election in Akwetia. We saw a mini-election or rerun in Ablekuma North. I think that is a constituency you once eyed.
Yes, but that's where I was born.
Okay, which was Dakuma?
Dakuma, yes.
Now we have a by-election, unless anything changes in the northern region. Forgive me, the name of the constituency just escaped me. Matthew Nyendam's constituency, Panda.
Yeah.
What assurance can you give us that the security situation we saw in Ablekuma North will not repeat itself in Pandai, and generally security in this country?
Oh, I think that the Akwetia by-election proved
has vindicated you.
Exactly, and it was peaceful. It passed without incident. So,
whatever, yeah, but this one you are more aggressive.
Oh, no, there's no aggression. What it is,
like they say, you are collecting their seats from them by force.
You see what it is? First of all, sometimes the MPP itself.
So you are going after them.
The MPP must pinch themselves and wake up from the slumber, the self-imposed slumber that they appear to be under. They went after Jachikwesi. Indeed, bizarre court rulings were handed down in the Jachikwesi matter. Even before the matter had been exhausted, he was barred from working as an MP. Even before the matter had been conclusively determined by a court of competent jurisdiction. So we went to a by-election assembly, did we not? We won, we prevailed. In fact, he prevailed by a wider margin than he did in the general election that brought him to parliament in the first place. So if the MPP has a right to petition against the conduct of an election in a constituency and pray a court to strip a member of parliament from the office that he occupies, why are they complaining when another person who feels aggrieved by the outcome of an election goes to court and the court makes a pronouncement after hearing the matter?
You are doing tit for tat.
There's no tit for tat. I'm saying that the same process that they went through to have Jachikwesi's seat declared vacant
is what you have
has been applied by the NDC pandemic candidate who lost or who was said to have lost in 2024, and the court has vindicated its right. How can the MPP purport to be angry at this? You see, they must show respect to the people of Ghana. They cannot say that when one court pronounces that there should be a by-election at Senate, we should jump and sing hallelujah. But when the same High Court pronounces that there should be another election in Pandai, then all hell must break loose. You see, nobody takes someone who flip-flops like that seriously. And it will do them a world of good if they remain consistent and take the electorate more seriously.
We need to go. Sure. In a minute, by the next December that you and I sit down for an assessment, what will be one major thing that will be done in 2026 that Ghanaians will say hooray?
Well, I think that we will see more of the big push.
So more roads.
Our roads will be in a much better shape than
the motorway will be nice.
The motorway, clearly work would have
the express, the new expressway that you've done to do, nobody has sent you, you've decided to build, you will build.
No, it is necessary. That's why it's being done. When Kwame Nkrumah wanted to build the motorway, I recall there was a graphic front page news item that appeared in the 60s that showed only one vehicle on the motorway. And at the time, the same Nankabuzi elements were up in arms claiming that it was not necessary. It was a prestige project. You know, so similar things, and Asenso Boakye is known to have opposed the construction of that highway. But the point is that it is necessary. That is why it is being done. Now, you asked about a third term.
President Mahama's third term, yes.
Again, the MPP have whipped themselves into a needless frenzy. President Mahama has stated emphatically that he will respect the Ghanaian constitution because he is a consummate Democrat. So there is no third term anyway for him or any other person for that matter, so as far as the Ghanaian constitution.
Even if people go on street and demonstrate,
anybody can say what they want. So the fact that people have gone on Facebook to express a desire for him to run a third term does not mean that will happen. The man himself has said that I am not interested.
Very well.
So the MPP should stop wasting their time and everybody's time and purporting to be angry and whipping themselves into a frenzy. It is an absurd fantasy that they themselves are getting themselves into, because President Mahama has not expressed any such intent. Indeed, not only has he not expressed intent, he has actually stated Emphatically, and it's on record that he's not going to run.
Honorable Felix Kwakye,
any talk about it is a complete waste of everybody's time.
Minister of State in charge of government communication, MP for Abura Sebo. We didn't talk about your constituency.
Oh yes, the constituency is doing well. It's certainly doing much better than I took it in exactly a year ago.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Umaru, Sanda, Amadu. This has been Face to Face. We'll be back next week with more. Please stay with Channel 1 Television.
Hello, lovely people. This is Lifeline, and I'm your host, Fred Kwakye Mensah. It is always exciting when we connect on this platform to use the Word of God to help one another. In life, sometimes challenges will come your way, but I need you to understand that when God created you, He gave you everything you need to be an overcomer. Scripture says in all these things we are more than conquerors. Whatever situation we find ourselves in, you just need a coach. You just need a lifeline to tell you that you are able to overcome. We will be right back. Please don't go away.
Hey Ghana, so you people know Miss Brother once more. If you it's your boy. Kill them all. But this time, I'm not only killing mosquitoes, I am killing the greats. See? This wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have the perfect mosquito-free atmosphere. Thank you, Out Insecticide. And yeah, Out Mosquito Coil. For a mosquito-free atmosphere, trust Out to... You are not serious.
Out Insecticide. So ya boa, faha.
Welcome back to Lifeline. This is Fred Kwakye Mensah. Today we are considering how to survive in a long-distance relationship. How will I survive if I find myself in a long-distance relationship? And you see, the scripture says that God said when He created Adam that it is not good for man to be alone. It is not good for a person to be alone. It is not beneficial. That phrase, it is not good, means it is not profitable and it is not beneficial for a person to be alone. So God ordained relationships. God created relationships. That was the first human relationship. He created a helper suitable for Adam. So let me start by saying relationships are first of all ordained by God, and then also relationships are for benefits and profit. God said it is not profitable and beneficial that man should be alone. In other words, when man finds himself or herself in a relationship, they profit and they benefit. I want to read a text to us and then we will go into the discussion this moment. Ecclesiastes chapter 4 verse 9 to 12. It says, two people are better than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. 11. Likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm. But how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. Relationships. How can I survive in a long distance relationship? You see, life has a way of blessing us with relationships, but that same life also has a way of creating distance in the relationships. Let me say that again. Life has a way of making our path cross with people. Life has a way of blessing us with relationships, but that same life also has a way of bringing separations into our relationships. And today I want to be talking to people who find themselves in relationships but in long distance relationships. How can I survive? How can I make it? I want to say to you that inasmuch as it is very challenging being in long distance relationships, it is doable, because with God all things are possible. I don't know what brought the separation. I don't know what it is that brought the distance between you and your partner. It could be your spouse, it could be a friend, but for the sake of this context and this discussion, I want us to limit it to marriage or romance relationship. You know, marriage or romantic relationship. Let's limit ourselves to these relationships when it is long distance. I don't know what brought about the separation. I don't know what brought about the distance, but sometimes it could be work. Maybe your partner was transferred to a different place. Maybe your partner is in the military. They are on the field. Work can bring that separation. Work can bring that distance. Sometimes our partners will travel out to go and seek greener pastures. Yes, sometimes they will travel out. Maybe your documentation is not ready. You will have to wait. Then it creates a distance. I don't know what brought the distance between you and your partner. Other times I have realized that sometimes life challenges will bring the distance. I'm talking about challenges like deportation. Maybe you are out there and your partner had an issue. They have been deported. They have been deported, and so there is that gap. There is that distance between or in your relationship. Whatever it is, you can survive this. There is a way you can go through this, and by the grace of God, you will be reconnected with your partner and your relationship will move on. But what is it that brought the separation? What is it? Is it work? Is it challenges of life? Is it opportunity for better life? Whatever it is, I want to believe that it is a blessing to you. And when we look into scripture, long distance relationship is found in scripture. Oh yes, Jacob loved a woman. Her name was Rachel. And then Jacob had to work for 7 years and wait for 7 years to be connected with a woman that he loved. So for 7 years there was that distance. They couldn't meet, they couldn't behave like spouses, they couldn't behave like a husband and a wife. So Jacob had to wait for 7 years. Only God knows the agony, the pain, the sacrifice he had to go through to wait for 7 years to be connected to the woman he loved. Joseph and Mary. Yes, Joseph engaged Mary, but they had a family challenge. And because of that, Mary felt so embarrassed she had to travel to her cousin for some months. They were separated. Their relationship became long distance. Moses and Zipporah, his wife, work separated them. So then God is calling Moses to go and tell Pharaoh, let my people go, because of the magnitude of the ministry, because of the weight of the assignment. He had to leave his wife and his children with his father-in-law, and then later they reconnected. So if you look through scripture, long distance relationship shows in scripture. And then in Song of Songs, there is this lady, scripture calls her the Shulamite woman, who is lamenting and talking about how sick she is of love and how she is waiting to be connected with her lover in the Song of Songs. So long distance relationship is not any strange thing. People have gone through it. Even in scripture, a lot of people have gone through long distance relationship and they have survived and they have thrived. So if you find yourself in a long distance relationship, I want to say to you that you are in a good company. So if you look at these people who have survived it, what it tells me is that by the grace of God, you can also go through it and you can also survive long distance relationship. I know that sometimes it becomes painful. I know that sometimes it becomes difficult because there are some challenges which naturally comes with this kind of relationship. The first thing I can think about is lack of physical intimacy. Oh yes. I can imagine how it feels when your partner is all the way out. You can't have physical contact. You can't have intimacy physically. And people suffer and struggle with that. Yes, I know and I understand that. But like I said, no matter the reason for the separation, no matter the reason for the distance, I am believing that at the end of the day, it will benefit your family. It will benefit you as individuals. So whatever it is, whatever challenges that the distance is posing, I am believing that you are able to endure, you are able to go through it until by the grace of God, you are reconnected. So lack of physical intimacy. And sometimes communication is affected because sometimes work schedules, you are not able to connect at the time you want to connect, and sometimes it brings about a lot of frustration. I understand that sometimes long distance relationship can be challenging, but I will keep saying that it is doable. Other people have gone through it, they have thrived, they have survived, they have overcome, and now they are at the other side. If other people have been able to go through it, you will be able to also go through it. Let me also talk to you about emotional issues. Sometimes when you are not physically present with your loved one, with your partner, with your spouse, with the person you are in a relationship with, sometimes emotionally you suffer a little bit. You are not fulfilled emotionally. You would want to be with your lover. You would want a touch. You would want a kiss. You would want some form of intimacy. And sometimes you suffer emotionally. But like I keep saying, no matter the price you are paying a price to get a prize. Let me say it again. You are paying a price, P-R-I-C-E, to get a prize. So go through it. You will survive and you will thrive. I will be back to talk to you about practical ways to make sure that you are going through this with grace and you are coming out to a better relationship. So don't go away. I will be back to engage you.
In December 2023, the biggest play in the history of African theatre made its debut.
The God of Iron, I stand on oath.
You saw it.
Hey, we sent you all the way to Ileife to bring us greetings from Ifa.
By popular demand and in honor of Maoli Semevo, Image Bureau, in partnership with April Communications and the National Theatre, presents The Gods Are Not to Blame. This December 17th, 7 p.m., 18th, 7 p.m., and 19th, 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. at the National Theatre. Visit www.imagebureaugh.com or dial *714*46# for your tickets. Single 250 cedis, double 400 cedis. Supported by New Plant Car Rentals, Ghana Tourism Authority, Balakwa. Sponsors Stambic Bank, our media partners, and proudly brought to you by
MTN.
Welcome back, my dear. You are back to Lifeline, where we are discussing how to survive and thrive in a long-distance relationship. Relationship, we have said, is a blessing from the Lord, but sometimes the same blessing that brings us together will sometimes separate us and bring a distance between us. How do I survive? How do I thrive? How do I go through this? So far, we have been talking about the fact that sometimes there is an amount of pain that comes with the separation, for the lack of physical intimacy, for emotional challenges, for communication challenges. But we have also said that most of the times, the distance comes in for a good cause. There is a reason you have been separated for a season. There is a reason there is that distance in your relationship. So you have to make up your mind to go through it for a greater good of your relationship. Probably your spouse or your partner is out there fighting for the rest of the family. Probably it is work that has taken your partner away from you. That's a good thing. Notwithstanding, it is challenging. I want to give you certain keys. I want to put in your hands. That's all Lifeline is about. I want to put in your hands certain keys that will help you to survive. Not just to survive, but to also thrive, to overcome, and to go through this graciously until by the grace of God, the two of you will come together physically. So let's talk about building trust. Intentionally building trust. When there is that gap, when there is that distance, when there is that separation, see, even though the human mind is positively wired, the experiences we go through sometimes will make us a bit negative. So when there is a distance, it breeds jealousy and suspicion. When you are not there, probably you call your spouse, you hear somebody talking, probably the person is outside the house, it feels like the person is in the house, and then you begin to suspect and you begin to think, your brain goes wild. The human brain is positively wired. God in his wisdom, he made us positive, but because of life experiences and people's stories you keep hearing, sometimes you are conditioned to be negative sometimes. So spouses or partners who are in distant relationships, I am encouraging you to consciously and intentionally build trust, because the gap is already creating suspicion and jealousy. So do practical things to build trust. You and I know that trust is the basis of every relationship. Every relationship will thrive on trust. No matter the kind of relationship it is, work relationship, trust. Romantic relationship, trust. Marital relationship, trust. Every relationship is built on the foundation of trust. And when there is no trust, relationship will not go well. So intentionally, consciously build trust. How do I do this? How about being open with your partner? Be open with them. Talk to them about your schedules. Talk to them about where you are at every point in time. I'm not saying be a slave to your partner, but I'm saying be accountable to him or her. What's the big deal if you go into a place, you make a video call, let their minds be at rest? Because already the gap and the distance is already creating a lot of tension, a lot of suspicion, and a lot of emotional issues. So be open. Be an open book for your spouse to read. You can also do things like, being honest and truthful. See, most of the times we are interested in reputation. But I love integrity more than reputation. Reputation is a good name, and people can pay experts to build good reputation for them. But integrity is gotten by you yourself. integrity is what happens between you and God. Reputation is what somebody can help you to build. So even forget about reputation, build integrity. Okay? What you wouldn't want your spouse to do, don't do it. Whatever you will do, be guided by this principle. Will I be happy if it is my partner who is doing it to me? That is integrity. Whether they can see you or they cannot see you, have some integrity. It is not only when they see that you should be concerned about. Even when they are not there, even when they are not seeing, be a person of integrity. Don't involve yourself in bad ways, and don't do bad things. The rule of life is that what you won't be happy to be done to you, don't do it to other people. Jesus said that is the golden rule of life. So integrity, and be accountable. Have open discussions with your partner and build trust. Help your partner to trust you. It is very, very important, because when there is no trust, nothing is going to work. So build trust. After that, may I suggest that you also maximize the use of social media, electronics, gadgets. Maximize that use. I mean, many years ago, my sister-in-law used to go to a communication center to queue for the husband to call her. Then she will have the opportunity to talk to the husband and come back home. Then anytime the husband wants to talk to her, he will have to call the comm center. They will come and tell her, your husband wants to call you at 7 o'clock, so come and wait. Today, communication is very simple and easy. Most people have more than one phones, and on your phone there is a video. Do video calls. Maximize electronics. Maximize the use of your gadgets. Let your partner be as close to you as possible. Call, video calls, voice calls, text messaging. In any way possible, try to maximize that opportunity that life and technology has offered us. Make phone calls. Stay on the phone for long. And somebody asked me, how about being intimate on the phone? And I asked the person, are you asking the bishop or you are asking the psychologist? Your guess is as good as mine. Let the bedroom matter stay in the bedroom. But all that I'm saying is that communicate. Communicate. Anything is possible. Let me say almost everything is possible in this day and age. So maximize. Let me also suggest that you have to try all you can to build emotional and sexual boundaries. You see, the challenges that comes with long distance relationship, sometimes they can be heavy on your mind and on your emotions. And then if you are not careful, you will fall into the wrong hands and try to get what you're supposed to get from your partner from other people. And may I say to you that there are a lot of vultures and lions out there who are waiting for the slightest opening to enter. So build your boundaries. I train my people to have boundaries in life. It's very important. If you're living life without boundaries, anything goes. Know that this is how far I can go with the opposite sex. This is how far I can go with A or B or C. I can't go beyond that. These are my boundaries, and be firm on them. A no is a no. A yes is a yes. Your partner is not here. Don't be going on dates with other men and women. It is wrong. Read my lips. I said it is wrong. Have boundaries to avoid temptations. It's very, very important. Stay away from temptations. When you see it, don't walk into it. Don't play with fire. Scripture says, can a man hold fire in their bosom and not get burnt? How did our friend Joseph deal with temptation? He ran away. So why are you playing with it? Oh, I know how to deal with it. I'm in control. Okay, keep being in control. Very soon you'll be laughing at the wrong side of your mouth. I pray you don't get there. But please, be careful than to be sorry. Have boundaries. Avoid temptations. And how about making lemonade out of the lemons of life? Maybe long distance relationship is not the best thing you want to have, but it has happened to you. So how can you get the good out of it? In Ephesians, the Bible says, make a good use of every opportunity. Other translation says, redeem the time, for the days are evil. Learn to see positives in even negative circumstances. What is the good thing about this time that my spouse is not with me? You have more time. Register at the gym. Of course, a decent gym. Register for that course. Go to school. Build yourself. Do something to add value to yourself. You have this time. Family is not with you. You can maximize it. You can make lemonade out of the lemons of life. Make something positive out of it. Scripture says in the book of James, he says, rejoice when you go through diverse kinds of temptations. In other words, you will have to learn to see opportunities from every challenge. What is the opportunity that you can get from this situation? How about trying prayer? Pray. Yes, pray. Pray. When we pray, anything is possible. John chapter 15 and verse 5, scripture says, without me you can do nothing. But Matthew chapter 19 verse 26, God says, with God all things are possible. When you bring God into your relationship, it will work. Even though there are peculiar challenges with a long distance relationship, if you introduce God into your relationship, it will work. Bring God in. The scripture we read says a threefold cord is not easily broken. What is a threefold cord? It is the one that is between me, my partner, and God. When you introduce God, pray. When you call your partner, pray about your relationship. Yes, I am not there with you, but God is there with you. When I pray, the pain of the separation is reduced. When I pray, I get help from God. Listen, when you come to God with your burdens, you roll them down and God helps you. Prayer will help. Pray and trust God. Believe God. I know it's difficult, but he says, I know the plans I have for you, plans of good and not of evil, to give you a hope and an expectation. He says, thus says the Lord, there is hope in your future. Jeremiah 31 and 17. Pray and believe God. It will work. What did I say? It will work. Because with God, all things are possible. I pray for grace over you. May the Lord help you and give you grace to survive this and thrive through it. In Jesus' precious mighty name, amen. See you another time. Bye for now.
Hello and welcome to People in Profit. I'm Charles Pellegrin. We've officially entered the holiday season, and here in France at least, this means some of us will indulge in more wine than usual to get into the festive spirit. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to focus this episode on the wine business, and specifically how artificial intelligence can be integrated at all levels of that supply chain, all the way from the vineyard to the wine store shelf. Well, here to guide us through that journey over the next 12 minutes or so is Felicity Carter. She is the founder of Drinks Insider and as such an expert on all the ins and outs of the wine business. Thank you so much for being with us.
It's such a pleasure.
So let's start at the tail end of the process with the consumer-facing part of the business. You recently did a talk about the promises of generative AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude for wine businesses, and the benefits there are similar to those AI can provide in other sectors. It's suddenly having an access to a supercomputer that can dig through reams and reams of data. You've said that now small wine businesses can operate like big players. What do you mean by that?
Well, they can. So most wineries are still functioning like farms, basically, where you produce it, you sell it, you get rid of it at the gate, and then you never think about it anymore. And what's happened in the last couple of decades is that wineries are now expected to function like multinational businesses, where they're supposed to sell their wines to multiple countries, they're supposed to come up with marketing, they're supposed to be able to talk to journalists and sommeliers and whatever, and very few have got the means to employ people to do that. So using some of these tools like ChatGPT or Claude or the new Gemini actually allows people to create marketing plans or to create plans for their export markets or find ways to talk to distributors in ways that they've never been able to before. So it can be quite powerful.
Mm-hmm. And using AI, though, that needs to be done with a critical approach. There are human skills involved here. Tell us more.
Well, the problem is that what AI does is it's a text prediction system. So here I'm talking about generative AI. And what it does is it defaults to the most average. So it looks at its training data and it says, what do I see the most of? And it defaults to that. So what that means is when you use it for marketing or use it for strategy, you have to be very careful how you prompt it, because what it will do is it will give you the most average in its data set. So you could end up with marketing materials or strategy materials that look exactly like all of your competitors in the market, and that's the problem with it.
So behind every use of artificial intelligence, there needs to be a very human vision. There's another aspect to this conversation as well. Prospective wine barriers are now increasingly turning to AI chatbots for wine advice, basically as robot sommeliers. What impact do you see this having?
Oh, this is this is where the hype doesn't match the reality. So most of the so-called AI sommeliers have been trained on language, and most of us don't experience wine through language. We experience it through taste. And the sommelier chatbots haven't been able to capture that at all for very complex reasons. You know, wine is the most complex liquid apart from, I think, it's blood. And it's very difficult to, I mean, human critics find it very difficult to tell you why a wine is good rather than other. That's why they give you scores. But an AI has very little access to all of the reasons why we buy and we taste wine. There are some companies in the United States that are trying to overcome this. One's called Tastry, which is run by chemists, and they're looking at wine as a whole liquid rather than sort of breaking it down into its constituent parts, which is what the AI sommeliers do. Another one is called Preferably, where they taste thousands and thousands and thousands of wines. They get humans to do it and then try and come up with a data set that the AI can read. But these are businesses that are backed by huge, venture capital, and most of what you're seeing in AI is just a gimmick. It doesn't work.
So that's just a gimmick, according to you. But we've mostly spoken at this point about AI as a software. There are physical manifestations and applications as well. Autonomous robots powered with artificial intelligence that can help grow and maintain vineyards. One robot called Frasky is currently being trialed in Italy. It could prove to be one solution, for example, to chronic labor shortages in the industry. Brian Quinn has this report.
In the rolling hills of northern Italy, a new type of vintner is rolling through the vineyards. This is Frasky, an experimental robot that combines anthropomorphic physical design with autonomous AI. It's a joint project of the Italian Institute of Technology and local winemakers aimed at revolutionizing wine production.
Fraschi is a robot that we intended to work in vineyards to do precision agriculture activities. So the basic idea is that we can digitalize our vineyards and we can have the idea and the location of every grape that is located in the vineyards.
Once Fraschi has mapped a vineyard into a digital replica, it can monitor growth, check for disease, and spray fertilizers or pesticides selectively, thus boosting sustainability, all without the need for human instruction or human hands. It's an increasingly pressing need as a shortage of skilled labor weighs on the global wine industry. In recent years, more than half of large wineries worldwide have been understaffed, with small businesses and cooperatives not faring much better.
The problem is not just collect the grapes, but also do action during the year to maintain the vineyards. This is an aspect that today is challenging because you need the people and you need expertise that are not easy to find.
For now, humans are still needed for the harvest, but AI robotics like Fraschi could soon be making decisions and taking actions that affect the vintages of the future.
So, Felicity Carter, do you see a future where these kinds of robots are ubiquitous in vineyards around the world?
Yes, this is a really transformational technology. So what AI is doing is it's able to pull data from multiple sets. So we've had precision viticulture since the 1990s, where you only water part of the vineyard or you look at the geology and plant the right thing there. But what the AI can do is it can pull in all of this information at once. So it can pull in your altitude, your light, your geology, it can look at the history of weather in your regions, and so it can predict things like how likely you are to get a disease outbreak after rain. It can predict where exactly is the right clone to plant in the right place, and it can predict exactly at what ripeness you should pick for maximum taste. It can tell you exactly what the temperature is that you should have in fermentation. So it's a complete quality revolution, more than anything we've seen almost for 100 years.
And this doesn't necessarily need to take the form of a robot. It can just be camera sensors, having the sort of digitized version of the vineyard available, right?
Well, that's right, and drone technology. So one of the most exciting things is the worst thing that can happen to you in viticulture is disease. And by the time the disease shows itself, it's too late. But what the drone technology can do, combined with AI, is it can tell you that disease is coming before it's begun to manifest. So you can do something about it, and that is a complete game changer.
And what's the impact here on the environmental side, on the sustainability side? What does all that extra data offer for that particular side of the business?
It is fantastic because it means that you use less water. You only use exactly how much water you need. You only need exactly how much pesticide or how much copper sulfate, which is the organic pesticide that you need, so there's less pollution. You can even fend off insect attacks by releasing sort of predator insects at the right time. So from a sustainability point of view, it's absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Is there a barrier to entry for businesses to integrate this technology? I mean, I'm assuming this has to be quite expensive.
It is expensive. So the people who've adopted it so far are either the big posh wineries or some of the big cooperatives, like the big Italian cooperatives. But, what always happens is that the early adopters bring down the cost of technology and get all the wrinkles out, so it's much easier to use for everybody else. And there's another benefit to all of this, which is that the wine trade is losing a lot of young people. They don't find it interesting. They've watched their parents struggle. And actually there are programs in Australia to show young people that working in viticulture can actually be a high technology industry and get them interested in it that way. So it's got the potential to interest people to coming back to the land.
The narrative around wine right now is that we've reached peak wine consumption. That was the expression used by The Economist, actually, about the wine industry right now. People aren't drinking as much as wine as they used to, but they're focusing on higher quality products, apparently. So how do you see AI integration factoring in with this wider trend?
Well, I don't know about that. This is a huge trend, and it's happened very, very quickly. We're actually seeing the sale of wine pretty much collapse, except at the fine wine investment grade end. Now, at that end, technology is really interesting because the problem with fine wine has always been that it's not been transparent. You didn't know where to get it from. You didn't know exactly how much you should pay for it. And what's happened with a lot of the AI integrations is they're allowing for price transparency and also availability transparency. And a lot of young people, particularly who've never been interested in fine wine, are really interested in it now because they've got all these apps that allow them to buy fractions of bottles, to trade with their friends, to organise with their friends when they're going to open it, to watch the value increase or decrease in real time. So at the higher end of the market, it's bringing a lot of new customers. At the other end of the market, not even AI can solve some of the consumption problems.
So not a very encouraging note for wine growers, especially in France, where a big part of producers aren't going for that fine wine market. Felicity Carter, you are the founder of Drinks Insider. Thank you so much for bringing all of your insights on this fascinating topic about AI integration in wine.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, that's all for this week. Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe to People and Profit on the podcast platform of your choice. In the meantime, happy holidays, and as we say here, santé. Hello and welcome to People and Profit. Today, a conversation about economic opportunity in underprivileged areas, whether it's in low-income suburbs or banlieue here in France or across the Atlantic in the United States of America. This, as Paris is hosting this week, the Forum économique des banlieues, a meeting where over 1,600 of France's most disadvantaged municipalities are showcasing their talents in order to attract investment and promote economic growth. Well, sharing his insights with us is John Hope Bryant, an entrepreneur and the CEO of Operation Hope, a U.S. nonprofit that works to promote financial literacy and economic empowerment to young people and adults. He spent decades advocating on behalf of America's poorest citizens and making sure they know how to get their slice of the American dream. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
Let's start with the obvious, financial literacy. What does it mean exactly? What's the most common misconception about money that you've heard, witnessed in all your years teaching, mentoring young people about finances?
Financial literacy is the civil rights issue of this generation globally. It's as important as, let's say, the right to vote was in the 20th century. And there's a couple misconceptions. One is that people confuse making money with building wealth. So you make money during the day, but you build wealth in your sleep. It's a compounding effect. It's ownership, basically. Stocks, the market, home ownership, small business ownership, entrepreneurship. Number two, there's a perception and a presumption that everybody already understands money and how it works. And that is a huge miss. It was a huge miss here in the United States, and it is the biggest economy in the world, $30 trillion, this economy, US. And we believe that it's 3 to 6% of unlock of GDP every year, 3 to 6%, locked in what we call the inner cities. What you call the suburbs, underserved communities. But these individuals were never taught the basics of how the economy works. And the economy, yours and mine, is substantially dependent upon a consumer economy. In the US, it's 70%. 70% of the $30 trillion is consumer spending, a little known fact. It's not big business. And so if we're having now what's called a K-shaped economy here, where the top of the market is doing extraordinarily well, including myself. The bottom of the market is struggling with too much money at the end of their money. And there's a perception that the bottom of the market is just simply a liability. And that is a mistaken assumption. So Financial literacy and getting people to take control of their own economic plight, their own economic opportunity, and give them the tools to compete and contribute to a market economy.
One example about sort of the impact of financial literacy that I was reading about earlier is the number of people who managed to lock in lower mortgage rates during the COVID pandemic when those rates went really low. And it turns out the people who most took advantage of this were people from middle or higher income families, that the people with less financial literacy from lower income households did not seize that opportunity. So that's a great example of the opportunities that are missed without financial literacy. There's something else that you sort of advocate when you talk to people via Operation Hope, and that's emphasizing, as you mentioned already, building a business as opposed to looking for a well-paying job. Can you tell us more about why you promote this particular avenue?
Because building a business does not require a pedigree of a family or a bloodline, or it doesn't require you going to the right schools per se. You're meeting a market need. And we think that in always entrepreneurship, where there's a company called Shopify, which, French Canadian inspired, they're out of Canada. Toby Luckey is the founder. We partnered with him to create, inspire, and advance now almost 500,000 Black businesses since 2020 here in America, since the pandemic and George Floyd's murder. We turned that negative and turn it into a positive. And Shopify is getting more customers. We are inspiring a different culture and unlocking economic opportunity through e-commerce. And they found that we were a great gateway to actually nurture, support, encourage Black businesses to get trained up, get them a Shopify account in this example. And the conversion rate from this aspirational person to a real for-profit business that paid a fee to Shopify in the future after the free fee was extraordinary. And they found that this is doing well and doing good. We found that to be the case with banks when they're making loans for small business. Huntington Bank just called me, and they have $250 million of small business loans that were on their books because of us. A small bank here called Fulton Bank has done $1 billion US in mortgages to Black Americans alone in underserved communities. So we've done about $4.5 billion just in small business and home ownership loans or through Operation Hope, through market economies. These are not charity. This is not handouts. This is not government subsidies. These are market rate loans at the best rates possible. And so small business, to your question, and entrepreneurship is the way you leapfrog over inequality. It is the way you get people into the game based on their hustle, their ability to work hard, morning to night.
Is this the same message you would send to young people in France's banlieue or suburbs as you would to young people in the inner cities in America? Would you tweak the messaging in any kind of way for the French context?
I mean, I would learn a few French words, but look, I am them. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles in Compton, California. My mom and dad divorced over money. They fought over money. Number one cause for divorce is money and domestic abuse all around the world. We had assets, but we lost them because my dad was not financially literate. The more money he made, the broker we got. He'd make $1, spend $1.50. And he wouldn't listen to my mother, who was financially literate. So families have to work together. I saw murders before I was 9 years old. I saw a man murdered who saved my life. My best friend was murdered before 9. I started my first business when I was 10 years old, a neighborhood candy house in Compton, California. And I put the liquor store that sold candy out of the candy business when I was 10 years old, when they refused to take my ideas and joint venture with me. I opened my own business in my mother's den and put them out of business. And once I did that, I became an entrepreneur. When a banker came in my classroom and taught me financial literacy, and I said, "What do you do for a living? And how'd you get rich legally?" And he said, "I'm a banker and I finance entrepreneurs." I said, "I don't know what an entrepreneur is, but if it's legal and you're financing it, I'm gonna be one." And that's who I am today. I was homeless when I was 18 years of age for 6 months or more of my life. So I am the people sitting in the suburbs. That is my story. But I've gone from the bottom socioeconomic strata, one of the worst economic zones in the country, to the top 0.1% of wealth and income. I've done it legally. I pay my taxes. I'm part of the you would call it the power social structure in this country. And if I can do it, others can too.
Focusing back on the United States, right now the Trump administration's pursued a tariff policy, which isn't really working towards reducing inflation from what we're seeing now. They're making life harder for low-income Americans. You've had conversations with that administration, with Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. You expressed previously confidence that it would be possible to work with them in some areas and to achieve results. Do you still feel that way today?
I've known 9 U.S. presidents. I've known and worked with 12 secretaries of the Treasury, countless bank regulators. I've been honored by we've been honored by 5 U.S. presidents. I've served 3 from both parties, and we created financial literacy policy under 2 presidents, George W. Bush and President Barack Obama. So yes, I believe that we can work with Secretary Bessent. He's a good man. I've known him actually for a decade. He is they are in a first year, very political environment where they tried something as a strategy that they think is going to work. I think that the first year of a presidency is very different from the second year, particularly when the second year is midterm elections. I think you're going to see some gradation. I think you're going to see some transformations, some changes as they go into, this is just my opinion, they go into 2026. And when they are in more of a spirit of collaboration and cooperation, versus being very focused on just 100% of what they want to do, that's when I think I can be most useful to Secretary Bessent, when we can work together. He is a very big advocate on financial literacy. I tend to focus on what we agree on versus what we don't agree on. There are things we clearly don't agree on, me and the administration. But Secretary Bessent and I agree 100% on financial literacy is part of the economy. Everything I told you on this broadcast, Secretary Bessent would echo. I just think that it was politically not very palatable in early 2025 for some people to see Secretary Bessent and I so chummy and working together and making progress. Some people did not like that. Look, we like math. It doesn't have an opinion. The reality is the more you have in the economy, the more people who are financially literate, the more people who can contribute. The lower your subsidy, the lower your reliance on the government, the lower your crime, the lower your depression, the higher your hope, the higher the GDP, all boats rise. And the economy benefits and democracies and societies grow. It's common sense. And he and I have agreement on that, and we'll plan on working together, I believe, next year.
John Hope Bryant, you are the CEO of Operation Hope. You are also an entrepreneur with decades of experience. We're running a multi-million-dollar businesses. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us on People and Profit.
My pleasure.
Well, on that note, that's all we have time for this week. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, you can catch all of our previous episodes on the France 24 website or app. In the meantime, do stay tuned to France 24.
The Heritage Christian University presents the 10th anniversary public dialogue themed Upholding Our Heritage Won For Us, Red, Gold, Green. The panelists are Kenneth Ashigbe, CEO, Chamber of Mines. Her Ladyship, Justice Sophia Kufu, former Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Ambassador Isaac Osei, Ghana's former High Commissioner to UK and Ambassador to Ireland. The moderator is Bernard Koku Avle. The venue is the Boating Auditorium of the Heritage Christian University behind the Olympic Stadium, Amasama. The date is the 10th of December 2025 from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. The 10th anniversary public dialogue of the Heritage Christian University will be live on Channel 1 TV.
This Christmas Eve, skip the ordinary and step into the extraordinary. Welcome to the Situation All White Party 2025, where the music never stops, the energy never drops, and the fun never ends. Celebrating grand style with great music, irresistible food, and an atmosphere that screams good vibes only. Date 24th December 2025. Venue Good Park near the Accra Mall. Time 8 p.m. till late. Dress code, it's an all-white affair. Get ready for electrifying live performances from Kofi Kinata, Perez Music, Inchin Chin Band, and DJ Mingle. Your best all-white fit. Bring your dancing shoes and let's light up the night together. Book your tables now. Call 0205-973-973 or 0558-973-973. It's Christmas Eve. Don't miss it. The Situation All White Party 2025 is powered by Channel 1 TV and 97.3 City FM, and it's proudly sponsored by EcoBank, Bethel Logistics, and Hallmark Cafe, and supported by Oswald Investments Limited.
Hello and welcome to the Channel 1 newsroom, live from our studios at number 5 Awula Hansen Lane at Tesano. I am Inosafo. Coming up. Chaotic scenes in Parliament as minority MPs demand withdrawal of letter declaring the Pandai seat vacant.
We submit strongly to this House that letter must be withdrawn by Parliament forthwith, and we must act and stay consistent with the pronouncements of the chair, for that matter, the speaker on this.
High Court rules for special prosecutor witness in the case against Charles Bissiu be testified in camera. Government announces plans to retool and modernize public health facilities across the country.
Crucially, Ghana is inviting private sector partners into strategic PPPs to expand diagnostic imaging, laboratory network, and specialized services.
In Channel 1 Business. Institute of Economic Affairs wants government to suspend ratification of lithium mining agreement. In Channel 1 Sports. Black Stars coach Otuado urges GFA to invest FIFA participation fund in youth development. Many thanks for joining us this hour. Let's settle for the details of our stories. The minority in Parliament has called for the withdrawal of a letter officially declaring the Pandai parliamentary seat vacant following a High Court ruling ordering a rerun of the constituency's election. The development comes after Parliament on Monday, December 8, 2025, formally notified the Electoral Commission of the vacancy. Reacting to the notification on Tuesday, the Minority Chief Whip, Frank Anodompred, described the letter as out of place and unfortunate, arguing that it violates the rule of law. Let's go live to Parliament, where our correspondent, Ni Ayikwe Okan, is standing by. Ayikwe, many thanks for joining us. A very busy day in Parliament, I must say.
It's been a long day today, full of chaos and clash between the majority and minority side of the House. After the minority caucus made it clear on the floor that the Speaker must direct the Clerk of Parliament to withdraw the letter that was ferried to the Electoral Commission declaring the Pandai seat vacant. After this particular notice was issued to the House, it's been followed by chaotic scenes here and there. Attempts by the First Deputy Speaker, Bernard Ahiafo, as well as the Speaker himself, Alban Bagbin, to ensure calm or peace is restored on the floor have proven unsuccessful, to the extent that once the minority side decided to call for an adjournment of the House, the majority side decided to continue with business of the House. I have been joined by one of the members of Parliament from the minority side, MP for Ota, for Vincent Ekwasifwa, to speak to him briefly on what happened today on the floor. Now, we saw on the floor of the House that in as much as you were resisting the commencement of public business, it did take place. What exactly is the plan for tomorrow? Are we going to see the same thing here?
There is going to be a resistance, a consistent resistance, at least for the week. And we are going to do so within the confinement of the law. We believe that we are practicing a constitutional supremacy. We believe that Ghana is a democratic state. And part of the principles of what constitutional supremacy is justice and fairness. It is my belief that the Speaker of Parliament on the 27th of November, when he ruled that there is an automatic 7 days that is supposed to be used as, if you like, a stay of execution per the rules of court. After the 7 days, the Speaker also indicated that if you make an application for the stay of execution, or if you like, an application for an appeal, what that means is that it is also a stay of execution. It beats our imagination to have the Speaker of Parliament to direct the Clerk of Parliament, for the Clerk of Parliament to write to the Electoral Commission, which is at variance to the Speaker of Parliament's own earlier ruling on the floor of Parliament. It is just at variance from it. The Speaker of Parliament gave a ruling on the 27th. How will the Speaker of Parliament now direct the clerk to now write to the EC that the EC should conduct election within the 30 days? So we are sending the signal that for us on the minority side, we are going to ensure a sustained resistance, at least for the next 1 week or 2 weeks, to drum home our concerns. Other than that, we are not going to cooperate for government business to go on.
All right, thank you so much for speaking to us. That's the Member of Parliament for Ota, for Vincent Ekwasifwa, speaking to us on what transpired on the floor of Parliament today. He has indicated that the minority caucus would continue with this resistance until their demand is heeded. Reporting from Parliament, Ni Ayikwe Okan.
My colleague Ni Ayikwe Okan filed an earlier report from Parliament.
Following an order by the Tamale High Court for a rerun of the 2024 Pandai parliamentary election, the Clerk to Parliament, upon receipt of this order of the court, has written to the Electoral Commission declaring the Pandai seat vacant. However, the Minority Caucus, in a statement on the floor on Tuesday, demanded the immediate reversal of this particular letter because, according to them, the MP has filed a stay of execution, hence the need for the court to rule on it before any further action. This generated an uproar on the floor of Parliament as the Minority Caucus, who were clad in black attire on Tuesday, protested by banging on tables and also chanting war songs against this particular directive by the Clerk of Parliament to the Electoral Commission. Let's bring you highlights of what happened on the floor on Tuesday.
Speaker, we strongly submit that the letter that was filed to the Electoral Commission was out of place, was unfortunate, and flies in the face of law and procedural justice. We submit strongly to this House that that letter must be withdrawn by Parliament forthwith, and we must act and stay consistent with the pronouncements of the chair, for that matter, the Speaker, on this same matter. We in the minority do not agree to the writing of this letter. We make a strong position that that letter must be withdrawn forthwith. This decision will not stay. This decision will not stay. And Speaker, we humbly call upon you to instruct the clerk. The clerk must be instructed forthwith to withdraw that letter and act according to law.
Honorable members, I will suspend sittings for 5 minutes, and I expect to see the leaders of the House at the lobby.
Speaker. Honorable members, Majority Leader.
After consultation, I will suspend sitting for 5 minutes. I'll be back within 5 minutes. Sitting is accordingly suspended.
Well, the Minority Caucus has stated clearly that cooperation would suffer in the House should the Speaker as well as the Majority Caucus fail to heed to their demand for the immediate withdrawal of the letter to the Electoral Commission declaring the Pandai seat vacant. Reporting for Channel 1 News from Parliament, Ni Aikwe Okai.
The New Patriotic Party says it stands firmly behind embattled Pandai MP Matthew Nyindam as Parliament officially declares his seat vacant. This follows a High Court order for a rerun of the 2024 Pandai parliamentary election. Parliament has since complied, notifying the Electoral Commission to begin the necessary processes. The NPP, however, says the battle is far from over. The party has pledged to exhaust every legal avenue to support Matthew Nyindam, who has applied to the Supreme Court seeking to overturn the High Court ruling. Joining me in studio is Director of Communications for the NPP, Richard Ahiagba, to discuss this issue further. Good evening and welcome to CNR.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Quite well.
Right.
Not exactly, but I'm okay.
Good to know. To begin with, how do you respond to concerns that the conduct of the NPP MPs today was, for want of a better word, distasteful?
Well, good evening again, and evening to your viewers. The conduct of the minority which is rolling on your screen is democratic. That's the look and feel of democracy. So to describe it otherwise would be seeking to characterize something other than democracy. But what they are doing there is the evidence, and people in a democracy ought to do that when they feel that people are using other means to upend the fundamental basis of a democracy, which is election. People are using other means to change how people lead and represent people in parliament.
What exactly do they intend to achieve with these disruptions, given the fact that the clerk has already notified parliament?
In a democracy, all you have is your voice, and they are exercising that. The clerk to parliament, and I heard the majority leader quote the Constitution, I think Article 1125 or so, which then gives the clerk, the powers to do what he was doing, and so therefore, inevitably, following the 7-day maturation, he ought to notify the Electoral Commission. But the clerk is an interested party. He's been served with all the processes, including the notice of appeal at the appeals court. He's been served on that. Even the judicial review request before the Supreme Court, he's been served in that. So, given that, okay, he needed to have at least allowed for that, because what we're dealing with is not just any normal situation. We're talking about a democratic right, the will of the people of Pandai, that is come under attack by the judiciary to say that the choice of people in Pandai should just be set aside over an agitation involving 500 votes in 41 police stations. That is not proportional decision to make. It's almost like taking a sledgehammer to kill an ant. And so if you are a Democrat, you resist that by every means democratic. And if you look at some precedents, okay, even in in this Fourth Republic, there have been instances where parliamentarians have been, their elections have been avoided. I go back all the way, I think 2001 or so. One of the NDC MPs, one Samuel Yimaka or something, he had a situation where his election was voided, but Parliament treated him as MP whilst he was pursuing an appeal of that process. The Mr. Honorable Jachikwesin's case that the NDC is their refrain, when you say that they go back to that, even him was not treated the way they are treating Honorable Nyindam, because before he was sworn in, January 7th, there was a case pending against him, but then he was sworn in. His election was only nullified, I think, in July of 2021, right? And even that, he continued to be in Parliament. He continued to be in Parliament. It was in 2022 when the Supreme Court issued an order injuncting him from acting as an MP. And even that, his seat was not declared vacant. It was in 2023 when the Supreme Court gave a final decision in that matter. Before his case, his seat was declared vacant, and we went to have to contest president. So the point here is that why hasn't all these things applied to Nyindam? Especially when the clerk is served with the process. Just tomorrow, the stay of execution will come up for hearing. The notice of appeal is coming. The judicial review at the Supreme Court is coming.
Is that to say the NPP has already filed?
Yes, all these processes are filed. And in fact, today a search was done, which indicated that the third party in this case, being the clerk, has a copy of all these processes. So the question now is that why the hurry? Why the hurry, especially in a democracy? Look, we make the collective mistake in the country where when these matters come, then we are looking at the law. What is the law? What's the law? Fundamentally, in a democracy, what you're looking at is the people's right to select their leader. That precedes anything. Okay. So when people have gone to select their leader, which is the raison d'etre of any democracy, you cannot upend that simply because there's a ruling, when that ruling actually is up for an appeal. you exercise caution. So that's why you see that in Parliament.
Right.
We are not going to understand this, especially if they are speaking democracy, which is what the majority leader is on his feet talking about, quoting constitution up and down. If you are doing that, then you must respect the processes that gives support to people's choice. If you have a case about 41 police stations, and what is at issue is about some 500 votes, and you have lost the election, which much more than 500 votes, 3,734 votes. So we can even agree to give you the 500 votes. That will not make you the winner.
Right.
So why is the judge looking at this and asking that we do a rerun instead of examining the issues that have been put before him? This is not right. In our view, the NDC is seeking to earn what it couldn't earn on the 7th of December in the polls through the back door, using the judiciary. After all, now they have instilled some measure of fear in the judges. We must admit that, because if you can remove the Chief Justice, who else can you remove? Because over there the processes are more extensive. So, but look at that, he's gone, or she's gone.
On the substantive issues of the clerk's letter to the EC, which laws do you believe have been breached?
We're saying that we're not contending any law that is breached.
Okay.
But I made a point to you that in a democracy, the law comes after, okay, the democratic right of citizens. The law restrains the abuse of the rights that democracy provides. But the law is not the essence of democracy. So if you are arguing law in a democracy, you are getting it wrong. But the rights of people are at issue. And if you are dealing with that, you ought to be mindful. I was making the example to somebody earlier, that imagine that the 2012 election, which was contested, in court, in that election petition 2013, imagine that there is a certain outcome where the judges say that, no, President Mahama didn't win the election, and it's Akufo-Addo who won. But meanwhile, he's been sworn in. Okay, his operation, I can use even a contest and make this example. Can you imagine what will happen?
Right.
You understand? The chaos. And so if you are sitting as a judge looking at this and that precedent, we have reason to believe that we won that election 2012. But somehow I believe in the wisdom of the people, the judges who sat on the case thought that for the purposes of allowing peace and democracy and somehow to the tranquility of the country, let's go this route. So you sit on a case like this and you chose that after somebody has lost. Contending 500 votes, you think that ordering for a rerun is the best thing to do rather than resolving this issue? I think that he is inviting chaos over common sense solution to a problem that needn't be dealt with the way he's dealing with.
What's next for the NPP? Will you boycott? Will you take part in the rerun?
I think that will appeal to democracy. And our appeal to democracy is to appeal to you and to appeal to all of us to say that this is something we should not countenance. This is something we should not allow to obtain, because if it does, it provides bad incentive for actors in the future who can also look upon this and say that we can even do worse because in the past this was done. And I have just shown you precedent to show that in the past people were indulged. Even Abu Sakande, who is a member of our party, when he had this issue of his eligibility, his seat was not declared vacant. He went through the process until his incarceration. Okay, that's when his inability to serve as an MP came up, and then the seat was declared vacant. But on an instance from the High Court, then you just proceed to do this. You think it's in bad faith, it's not democratic. So what you see are a group of people determined to defend our democracy, and on your other side, whichever side they are, right or left, where the NDC is standing, there are a bunch of people who are in above their head, thinking that because they have so much numbers in Parliament, they can do whatever they want to do to oppress and to affect our democracy. And I want to make this quick example. I know you want to move on. You just saw what happened in Benin. And before Benin, there was Guinea-Bissau. Our democracy is not foolproof. In fact, this second wave of democratic renaissance in Africa started in Benin in 1991. They went ahead of us. Their democracy is more mature than ours. And so when you're seeing these things and you have people tinkering with our democracy in the manner they are doing it, you don't take it lightly.
Right.
We all as citizens must stand and tell the NDC that this is not the way to go, and appeal respectfully to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and say, tell the NDC to stay their hands. What they are doing is dangerous. It is aiming dangerously at our democracy, and they should stop it.
Mr. Hegba, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you kindly.
Let's move on to some other stories now. Government has announced plans to retool and modernize health facilities across the country as part of Ghana's contribution to Africa's health transformation agenda. President John Mahama made the announcement at the WHX Leaders Africa Summit in Accra, where he highlighted the country's commitment to innovation, digitalization, and improved healthcare delivery across the country. There's more in this report. The Health Summit in Accra brought together leading figures from across the continent to discuss critical issues shaping Africa's healthcare sector. Health Minister Kwabena Mintah Kando emphasized that healthcare systems across Africa could become fully digital and AI-enabled, provided the continent accelerates investment and embraces collective action.
If Africa embraces bold action and collective effort, the continent that emerges in 2050 will be profoundly different. Africa will be a global hub for pharmaceutical and vaccine production. Our hospitals will be digitally connected and AI-enabled. African researchers and entrepreneurs will shape global science. Our financing scheme systems will support universal access. And Africa will take its rightful place as a leader in global health governance.
President Mahama outlined Ghana's contributions to the continent's health transformation agenda. He noted that these initiatives align with continental priorities under Agenda 2063, Africa's new public health order, and global commitments under SDG 3, all of which require African nations to move from ambition to concrete action.
Mahama Cares seeks to break that cycle. It positions Ghana as a regional hub for specialized care, advanced research, and cutting-edge innovation. To complement this, we also will implement a universal free primary health care program, ensuring that cost never prevents any Ghanaian from receiving essential care. This initiative strengthens community health systems, expands digital health services, and shifts our health model decisively towards prevention, early detection, and community-driven care. Crucially, Ghana is inviting private sector partners, and this is what I was talking about, into strategic PPPs to expand diagnostic imaging, laboratory network, and specialized services nationwide.
In addition, President Mahama called for strategic partnerships to establish large-scale vaccine production hubs on the continent.
Africa seeks a new paradigm of partnership, one that is defined not by dependency, but by co-investment, innovation, and shared values. So we call on vaccine manufacturers to partner with us to build African vaccine production hubs. We call on pharmaceutical companies to expand into biologics, generics, and essential medicine manufacturing in Africa. Diagnostics, innovators, biotech firms, and medical device producers to establish assembly plants, R&D centers, and fabrication facilities here in Africa.
This is the Channel One Newsroom on Channel One TV. Still ahead. Institute of Economic Affairs wants government to suspend ratification of lithium mining agreement. We have the details shortly. Do stay.
Uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, mommy.
Amadu. The second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Trotro from Kaswati. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be late, of course.
You go feel the luckiest. Go feel from Georgia be luckiest. From not the cause she be luckiest. Yeah, you go feel be luckiest. No matter why you're lucky. Everybody go feel be that luckiest.
God Kwame!
Send your God the apple boom. If you put it to so would the coming of the son of man be. Is that his car?
Dial *712#. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompts and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
Your health is in your hands, but at some point, it passes on to us. At Mintuba Hospital and Coloproctology Center, we believe that quality healthcare isn't a privilege, it's a right. Equipped with cutting-edge technology, we are fully prepared to effectively deal with all colorectal and proctological conditions. Our team of highly skilled doctors, surgeons, and nurses are renowned for their expertise in minimally invasive and painless laser, ligature, and lungoproctological surgery. We are committed to providing a wide range of services to meet the diverse needs of our patients. Mintuba Hospital, your health is our priority. Visit Mintuba Hospital today or call us at 0244 581 541 or 0271 054 204. Mintuba Hospital, in to serve a peculiar health need.
Christmas, my favorite time of the year.
This festive season, Volta Serene Hotel invites you to experience the magic of Christmas and New Year like never before. From 20th of December to the 1st of January, step into a world of joy, music, laughter, and celebration. We begin on the 20th with a soulful carols night, filling the air with warmth and melody. Then, on 23rd and 24th of December, arrive in style as we welcome you with fresh coconut and local treats. Christmas Day brings pure delight, exciting moments for kids, relaxing escape for adults, and an elegant all-white dinner under the stars, crowned with a spectacular fireworks display. On Boxing Day, embrace culture and rhythm, from picnics and traditional dance to an unforgettable high life and old school night. As the week unfolds, enjoy movie night, live music, karaoke, and endless fun, until we welcome 2026 with a breathtaking fireworks show on New Year's Eve. Special Christmas packages starting from 4,050 for individuals, 5,250 for couples, and 8,900 Ghana cedis for a family of 4 for 2 nights. Call or WhatsApp 0541 539 867 or 0362 025 243 to book your experience today. Volta Serene Hotel. Feel the serene touch.
This is AFCON, my friend. Everything is a competition. Everything.
Join our family for AFCON Morocco 2025 from 21 December to 18 January. Available on DSTV and GoTV.
Hey Ghana, so you people know Miss Brother Man Small. If you knew, it's your boy. Kill them all, kill them all. But this time, I'm not only killing mosquitoes, I am killing the greats. See? This wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have the perfect mosquito-free atmosphere. Thank you, Out Insecticide. And yeah, Out Mosquito Coil. For a mosquito-free atmosphere, trust Out to... You are not serious.
Out Insecticide. So ya boa, faha.
You are welcome to two of Ghana's finest addresses, Willow Lane and Alphabet City, located at Sakumo. Alphabet City is a premier gated community with 24/7 security. Willow Lane, where luxury meets comfort, spacious 4-bedroom homes with walk-in closet, elevators, and gourmet kitchens. Two lifestyles, one trusted developer at Waylead. Our buildings are ready for you to move in right now. So visit waylead.org or call 0240-111119 to book a private tour today. Waylead, your trusted home builder.
You're welcome back. Up next is Channel 1 Business with me, Latte Latte.
Channel 1 Business is brought to you by MTN and EcoBank.
How are you doing, Nee?
I'm well, Eno. How are you too?
I'm very well, thank you. What's happening in business?
Well, the Institute of Economic Affairs is asking government to suspend the ratification of the current lithium mining agreements before Parliament, warning that the deal does not secure long-term value for the state. This comes as debate intensifies in Parliament over the terms of the agreement between the government and Baravi DV Ghana Limited. More in the following report.
Addressing journalists in Accra, Board Chairman of the Institute of Economic Affairs, Dr. Charles Mensah, said Ghana's mining agreements have historically been structured in ways that benefits investors far more than the country. This imbalance, he adds, has prevented Ghana from maximizing revenue from its natural resource wealth.
Parliament must therefore halt the ratification of the revised lithium agreement between Ghana and Baravi currently before Parliament. Again, I will state it is not in our interest, not in our economic interest, not in our national security interest. This is a critical mineral. It's not like gold, it's rare earth, they call it. You don't find it in every country. If you find it, you have to protect it. For our national security reasons, I think the government should halt this, not renew it.
Former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay, on his part, called for state ownership of the country's natural resources rather than continued reliance on royalties, arguing that this is key to preventing repeated returns to IMF bailout programs.
The point is that we link this directly with Ghana's 17th IMF, and we say it is a tragedy that this should continue to happen. Are we going to take that as the normal? Every 4-6 years, we go back to IMF, beg for support, and when we come out, we jubilate. Now we should own what is the issue, and that issue is our gold, diamond, bauxite, manganese, lithium, oil, whatever. Until we own that, leverage upon that, make the best out of that, and benefit maximally for that, we are going to remain where we are.
Seasonal demand for foreign exchange is still triggering pressure on the cedi ahead of the festive season. The development is beginning to unsettle import-reliant businesses, many of whom depend on predictable access to dollars